amount so that you put the right amount of oil in, because you don't want to overfill, because that can cause damage to the engine. Howdy guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm the Handy Monk, and today we're going to do some automotive maintenance. So we're going to start by changing the oil in this car. Today we're working on a 2001 Ford Taurus, and it's just due for an oil change, so we're going to go through how to do an oil change. Right now, come a little closer, we've got it set up. I have some fans running just because when you change your oil, you want to make sure the engine's warmed up a little bit. That way any dirt sitting in the pan can mix in with the oil, that way it comes out when you drain it. But it's so warm today that we want to cool this down a little bit, just because we got to reach our hands on there and grab the oil filter and the oil plug off, so we're just cooling it down a little bit. So let's go ahead, crawl under this thing. We're going to pull out the drain plug and drain out all the oil. Alright, so here we are underneath the car, and the first thing you want to do is you want to find the oil pan. Normally the oil pan is right on the bottom of the motor, so that's this guy right here, and the oil pan always has sort of a plug right on the back of it, so that it's normally at the lowest point, that way all the oil comes out. And so here's our pan right here with our plug, just right under the front of the car. I'm going to go ahead and wipe this off a little bit, just because you want to make sure all the dirt is away, and then wipe it off. It's a little bit dirty. It's also good to check for leaks, to see if you have any leaks on here. This looks pretty good. There was no active oil leaks. It's just, a little dirty from driving around with grime. And so then just want to take the ratchet, loosen the plug, it up. There we go. Once it's loose, you can just pull it out by hand. It's also always a good idea to put some gloves on. So let me grab some gloves and I will get this plug out of here. The key is to just not drop the plug into the pan. You want to make sure that the oil is dripping right into the pan. There you go, got it. There we go, very nice, very nice. And it's always good to have a paper towel just to wipe it off. And then you wait a couple minutes and we'll let this all drain into the pan. So there's the plug right there. We just want to wipe it off, make sure that it's nice and clean when we put it back in. Also on the plug, it's important to note, so there's normally, this one has a black O-ring. Sometimes you'll have a metal washer or a black O-ring that always seals against the pan. You want to make sure that this is in good shape when you put it back on. This one looks fine. It's a little bit crushed down, but that's what actually does the sealing. So you want to make sure that when you're handling it, you don't damage whatever seal your plug has. So it's been a couple minutes. The oil has stopped dripping out basically. There's just a few little drops on the bottom. We want to make sure we wipe off the bottom of the oil pan just to get off any little bit of residual oil, and we'll put the plug back in, snug it up, and then find the oil filter and change that. And when we tighten the oil plug, we want to make sure it's in there and nice and snug, but we don't want to over tighten it either. So we're just going to put it in by hand, make sure you don't strip the threads, and we'll just put the ratchet on it and give it a general tightening. You can look up the torque specifications for these plugs, but when you get good at it, you can just give it kind of a little hand snug. This up a little bit. Okay, that should be good. And let's go change the filter. So now it's time to change the oil filter. You always want to make sure that you change the filter with each oil change. It's going to be in a slightly different position on each car. This one, on this 2001 Ford Taurus, is on the front and top of the motor right here. The issue is it's underneath the exhaust manifold right here. So it's always a bit of a game to try and sneak your arm under here and get the filter. But that's it right there. That black filter just attached to the front of the motor. So we're going to see if we can sneak in there and get this guy loose. Let's see if we can get in here, get this filter off. There we go, got it. It's loose. And so I'm just going to loosen it up a little bit. Oil should start dripping out a little bit. Hopefully it'll hit my pan. like that. And that's how we take the filter off. And again, some people might say, oh, well, if the motor wasn't warm, it'd be easier because it's not hot. But I think it's worth getting the dirt mixed into the oil when you drain it. Again, that wasn't that hard. I did get it out without burning myself. It just you just have to be a little bit careful. And so we've got the old one off. I'm gonna grab the new one and we'll pop it back on there. All right. Here's my brand new filter. One of the things that you want to do before you put the filter on is I'm going to put a little bit of brand new oil on this gasket right here, because you put some oil on the gasket and then tighten it down. It helps ensure that it seals properly, so I'm just going to dip my finger. Actually, I'll probably pour a little bit just onto the rim of the filter and then just spread that around on the filter gasket here to help give it a nice seal. And then I've wiped off everything on the motor, so I'm just going to go ahead, slide this guy back in here. You want to make sure that when you tighten it, I just kind of give it a nice hand snug, because you want to make sure that it's tight enough that it doesn't leak, but it doesn't need to be super, super tight. So I just give it a good, sort of couple turns, tighten it. That's probably good right there. It's kind of hand snug. Nice and tight on there. We're good to go. Let's add some new oil. Check for leaks. Filter looks good. I don't see anything gushing out. That looks good. I don't see anything coming out of the pan. All right, I think we're good. Success. All right, so that's it, guys. That's how you change your oil. Those are the basic steps to draining it, changing the filter, putting new stuff in. The one thing I forgot to mention is we have the old oil right here. I'm gonna bottle this up, and you can return it to any hardware store or auto parts store. Basically, any place that sells oil should take it back and recycle it. So we're gonna bottle this back up, go recycle it. But until next time, remember to go out, enkindle, and enlighten. And if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. Thanks, and see you guys next time.